Welcome to the Sexy Aging Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Minnoch-Nuku. I started this podcast because I have a fascination with aging and I'm constantly searching for credible guests to educate, inform, entertain and inspire you to live an incredible second half of your life. So it's not surprising that I stumbled across the topic of menopause and down the rabbit hole I went. If you started listening to this podcast from the very first episode, you'll actually be joining me on the journey of discovering what menopause is and how best to support menopause symptoms. And if you're new here, welcome. My guest today on the Sexy Aging Podcast is Lisa Mulligan. Now, Lisa and I have not met like many of my guests that come on the podcast. And of course, the word menopause has come up. Lisa posted on LinkedIn a question around who are the people out there that are actually supporting businesses and other women when it comes to menopause support and care. And I think someone must have tagged me. Next minute, yes. Lisa puts together the most awesome list of movers and shakers that would help companies and people that want to know about menopause, how to support women in the workplace and a little bit beyond that. Lisa puts out this awesome list and I get tagged on the list and I'm like, that's so cool. Thank you so much, Lisa. And you do that for, I mean, in my eyes, you did it because it was a service to people, but obviously this is a conversation that is infiltrated into the work that you do. So to introduce you, I'll let you speak about what it is that you do and how you came into the business of culture ministry.
Yes, thank you so much, Tracy. And first, I just want to say I love the name of your business and the podcast. It's super cool because don't we all want to age in a sexy way? We definitely do.
Whatever that means to you, right?
Exactly, right? Exactly. So I'm really pleased to be here. I am the CEO and founder of the Culture Ministry, which is a diversity and inclusion consulting business. And you know, I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, but it was really born out of wanting to create organizations that are not just inclusive for people, but are also creating sustainable businesses because I think we need both. So that's really where I focus my work on how do we get inclusion, but how do we get organizations that will continue into the future? So that's a bit about what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so which businesses are you working with? Is it New Zealand based? Do you do international businesses? And what are some of the highest needs that these businesses have?
Yeah. So I'm Australian to start with. So I do get to do work in Australia. I really understand the Australian culture and the Australian, I guess, framework around this work. There's lots of legislation in Australia that helps drive diversity and inclusion work. But then I lived in Asia for 8 years. I lived in Singapore, and Asia is such a fantastic area of the world and with huge growth, and all the countries are very different when it comes to diversity and inclusion work. So I often get work across Asia, which I'm really grateful for, and it's kind of soul work. And then also do some work in New Zealand. So, you know, I look at Asia Pacific as this really fantastic growing region with so much diversity and get to work with really great organizations across that part of the world. What I'm seeing in organizations, it's a bit of a mix at the moment. It's a bit of a funny time in the world.
Isn't it? That was my next question coming, like, hang on a second, diversity and inclusion. Are we going to talk about that as well? But we can.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of the stuff I'm seeing is I think gender is still a big ticket item for lots of organizations, that we still don't have enough women in lots of organizations, particularly the organizations I work in. I often work with male-dominated organizations and industries. So there's still a real focus on how can we get more women in organizations, how can we retain them, and how can we pull them up into leadership roles. So that's the first thing. And then I think depending on the location, we get some different focus. So in Australia, working with Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders people is really important. In New Zealand, ensuring that the Māori and Pasifika people are well represented in our organisations is really important and will become more important as that population grows. Also thinking about in both New Zealand and Australia, huge immigrant population. So how are we building inclusion for people that have come to these countries for a whole lot of different reasons? And then in Asia, it depends on the country what the issue is, whether we're driving more women. Singapore is certainly focusing on how do we get more women into leadership and how do we get more women in boards. And then, it's contextual really in the other parts of the world. And a lot of my work is really around inclusion. So how do we create inclusion for everyone so that everyone can come and be part of what's happening?
Yeah, I love what you do. Did you know that I lived in Asia for 20 years?
No, where did you live?
Yeah, in Kuala Lumpur. So when you speak about Singapore and places and the inclusion, diversity and all of that, like I lived in a diverse country. So Muslim, Chinese, Indian, Tamil Indian. So that was really awesome. So the fact that you work in diversity and inclusion, like I totally have a heart for that as well, because it's like when you're putting something together, some training or an opportunity, that you're always constantly thinking about how does this affect everyone? How does the messaging go out and land with every single group of people there? And of course, gender is a big thing because, as you mentioned, getting more women into leadership in Singapore, and that I think Singapore is probably one of the leaders when it comes to gender inclusion. But obviously a lot of the other countries, it's still, an early road, but starting to happen now as well. Yeah,
that's true.
So, and sorry?
I was just going to say, what's great about living in a country where you're the minority? So you and I would have been the minority in Malaysia and Singapore. There's no doubt about that. Possibly privileged minorities, because I was certainly in a very well-paid job. I was paid probably a lot more than some of the locals. But there are opportunities where you find yourself being the minority and knowing what that feels like. And then being able to take that feeling and go, actually, I felt excluded over there. That's what it must be like here in New Zealand for immigrants, or in Australia for the Indigenous people. So having that experience of not being the main group of people, I think, is really important in this work.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Although also in, similar vein to what you were saying about your experience, we do tend to have our expatriate bubble, which makes us exclusive to others, right? So there's that we align with other people who are having the same experience. They've moved away from their country. They've created this little bubble. Their kids are all going to school together. All the activities are done around the school environment. And I was actually really lucky to be one of the only women working. So I was working, I was the person that got hired and my husband came with me. It was a really unique situation, where I was working and then he started working, but most of the expatriate women were not working. So their own bubble creates a level of exclusivity, I think.
Yes.
Whereas I was working and hiring local people, and that gave me the best education ever. I feel so grateful for that opportunity to be able to create these roles and these jobs for people that would never have had that opportunity. So, and it just, like when you say it feeds your soul every day, it's feeding your soul that you're seeing these people that you've given this opportunity, their lives are elevating, their families are better off, maybe their kids are going to better schools as well. So, look, I didn't know that we'd have this conversation. So
I didn't know that either. That's really cool.
So awesome. Yeah. So when we move on to sort of in the workplace, there'll be obviously other subgroups of people. And a lot of companies that I've spoken to, obviously they've had well-established policies around maternity leave, around supporting women who are pregnant, around the family leave and things like that. And one of the very last conversations that companies have had is, how do we support menopausal women? And it wasn't really until about, I'd say 5 years ago, that some very bold woman said, and probably a leader, hopefully a leader, maybe she's hiding the fact that she's in menopause, said, I cannot do it anymore. This is really tough. Where is the support for me? Are you having those conversations or hearing that information as well? And what's the journey for the work that you do that's seen menopause kind of slide into that conversation, if that makes any sense?
Yeah. I guess because I don't specialise in menopause in the workplace, I don't hear a lot of the conversations in the workplace per se, but I'm hearing conversations of other women that I'm meeting who are doing work like I'm doing, but are also experiencing menopause themselves. And yeah, it was interesting. I was trying to think, like, when did the menopause conversation actually start in the workplace? And I was in Singapore until 3 years ago, and it wasn't till coming to New Zealand that this was actually a topic to start with. And I think New Zealand and the UK are leading the conversation on menopause, which is absolutely fantastic. But some of the things I have seen in workplaces, I'm starting to see, good education where organisations are bringing people probably like you in, I would say, to talk to their workplace, to talk to the women, but also to talk to younger women and to the men. And so they all know what's going on. I think, we're seeing organisations put policy in place around menopause, which is fantastic, and that's really great. And then the work I do in trying to get more women into leadership roles.
Yes.
Like, the women who are in menopause now are Gen X and older millennials, I think. And
Yes.
these are the people who are ready to be in those really senior leadership roles, or are there now. And so for organisations who want to keep those women and want to have more women in leadership, like, what are you doing? How are you supporting women? And I don't know what that looks like for them.
Yeah.
I honestly don't
really
know.
interesting? Don't you think it's really interesting that, there's this whole glass ceiling, right?
Mhm.
And we have women that have built up their careers, and that kind of aligns a lot of the time. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, with
Yeah.
men. So they're building up their careers, they're getting the same opportunities if we're in a sort of equal opportunity environments like some companies are. And then women are coming into their sort of early 50s. They're being channeled towards these leadership opportunities and shoulder tapped, and then they start to experience perimenopause symptoms. So we're starting to see women that have had this trajectory to go into leadership possibly step away because they're not feeling very confident about what's happening to their body, their brain, their emotions.
Yes.
Perhaps they have dropped the ball at work. Perhaps they have had a meltdown. Perhaps they have spoken harshly to someone in a rage moment, and then they really start to doubt their ability. So is this the kind of conversations that you've had? Your complete midlife and menopause health coach is here. The Sexy Aging Health and Fitness app has everything you'll need for this stage of your life and beyond. Personalised fitness training programs that build lean muscle from beginners to advanced. Personalised nutrition where you can choose from vegan, vegetarian, dairy-free, gluten-free, the menopause meal plan, and more. There are education videos that help you understand menopause symptoms. There are new weekly Workouts with Me videos added as bonus extras. You can do sprint interval training and HIIT workouts and train your balance, mobility, agility, and core. Wait, there's more. Mental health video series, a personalised chat function, menopause symptom tracker, period tracker, and a community group. You'll be able to ditch all the individual apps you've got stored on your phone taking up space and use the Sexy Aging app for all of it. There are options for fitness workouts only monthly subscriptions or the all-inclusive monthly subscription. Check the link in the show notes that will take you to the info page to find out more.
Yes. So, and then while all of that is happening at work, at home, they're still bearing the burden of everything at home and, looking after children and everything that goes with that. They've probably got elderly parents, so that's happening as well. I mean, you can see why women might opt out of the workforce. You can see why that's all too hard. And I'm not seeing organisations doing enough around how can we ease the burden? How can we be more flexible? How can we create different structures of work? And not just for women, we need men doing it as well, because if it's just the women doing it, well, they're still not going to get into those leadership roles. They're still not going to progress because it's too hard. So how do we change that, what leadership looks like if we're not all doing it? So
Yeah, I think it's difficult to embrace the challenges that are going on with you
as your body changes, and also, like you mentioned, all the things that are going on at home, and still have this driving desire to excel and be the leader eventually, or the CEO. Like, I do think there's a massive hurdle. I've gone through 10 years of perimenopause symptoms, and I'm out the other end. I'm officially postmenopausal, like, I don't know, 2 months ago. I think it was a year that I'd had a period. And I can say for anyone that's listening, it does get better. It seriously gets better. I think that some of the things, and this is probably going to be useful for anyone who's potentially in that leadership position, that, I mean, 10 years is freaking hard. I'm not going to lie.
It is hard. Oh my God.
But, you know, the first 5 years for me were like a real shit show. Like, I had no idea what was going on. And then the next 5 years, when I knew what was happening and realized the things that I could do to look after myself, of which most of it was lifestyle and some of it was medical, that was a game changer, because I obviously became a lot more gracious and accepting of my situation and realized that it wasn't forever. So when you come through the perimenopause difficulties, one of the things that I think is the best thing ever is how your brain capacity seems to come back better, right? So the way that the creativity, the structure of your day, you're getting the important shit done and not worrying about the things that don't really matter so more, having a real clarity about who you are, your intuition around making decisions, that is not even more, I don't even call it intuition anymore. I just call it's life experience. I've had this experience. I know this is the right way forward. This is right for everybody.
Yep.
This is going to be good for everybody. So I think that's one of the real upsides for any women leaders who are maybe struggling right now, that, you know, it is a real struggle with perimenopause, but when you come through out the other side, and I'm not promising that all the symptoms go away, but there is a clarity that happens. And I believe that that is what makes a great female leader. So if she can just hang in there, you know, because it is going to take some time to pull together the policies and the support. It is happening, but it's just going to take some time to, you know, for perhaps someone up there who says, you know what, we've got these great potential female leaders and they're going to have a difficult moment, but we need to hold on to them.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah.
No, I mean, that's really helpful for me. And also, I mean, I'm coaching women now who are saying to me, you know, they're thinking about their careers in the future. And I've had women say, I don't want to be the CEO, or I don't want to be the general manager. And these women are exceptional. And I'm like, well, tell me about that. Why don't you want those jobs? And they're like, I don't want to do what the men are doing to be the CEO or to be the general manager. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what are you doing? Oh, well, they work all the hours. They get up at 3 a.m. to do board meetings, which is often what happens in global companies. You know, I don't want to work every hour under the sun, right? And so I'm saying to them, you can do these roles however you want to do them. You've just got to take control and go, well, I can do this flexibly. And I'm saying to them, we need you to do it so that other women, younger women, can see it. But it's really hard if you're not sleeping, you're having hot flushes, people keep playing with the air conditioning in the office. You want to stab everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You're itchy. I mean, there's so many different symptoms that women experience. But I think I don't hear enough from women on the other side about things do get better. So I loved how you shared that, because, I mean, sometimes my brain, you know, I can't think of words when I'm talking to clients, and then I feel like I don't have confidence because they won't know what I'm talking about because I can't think of the word. Like, you know, that stuff's real.
Yeah, and it knocks away, like you say, chips away at your confidence. You know, build up the imposter syndrome because you think, hey, look, I've been doing this for like 20-something years and now I feel like I can't do it anymore. And you're having these doubts. So, I've spoken to so many women about this particular issue, which is the brain fog and the word dropping and the, you know, having to present at board meetings and conferences and stuff and just feeling absolutely terrified. However, you know, just 5 years ago, they totally smacked it out of the park. So I think it is a moment, and to just, one of the things that I've learned through that time is just have a little bit more grace for myself, you know, just understand that it is a period of time and it is like a reworking and a rewiring of the brain. So I want to just touch on something around infiltrating the conversation into the workplace. So And I, just once again want to thank you for what you did just by sharing a list of people that can actually come into a workplace and have a conversation around menopause and, most importantly, how to support their woman employees. So the last 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years, I've been delivering these workshops into workplaces. But I just want to say, and you'll be excited about this, that the last 3 companies that I've done, City Care Group, Christchurch International Airport, and Avery Dennison, over 50% male participation in the menopause conversation. Exciting, right?
Really exciting.
Yeah, because they really want to support their colleagues, really want to support their partners at home, their mums, their sisters. And that is one of the real highlights of these conversations, is not only do we come away with some real strategic, this is how we want to make sure that our work colleagues are comfortable and continuing at work, but, oh gosh, this is what's happening at home,
I love it.
So that's really exciting. And I appreciate that you, put that list out there, of which many of those other speakers I'm quite close to and probably have interviewed on this podcast at some point.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's good about that, and I've had to learn in diversity, and not have to learn, but often it's better to be generous in this space, because we're often all learning and we're all growing together, and we're in the first generation that's really started to talk about menopause publicly. And we're still on that path. Yeah. Being in it together is really helpful.
Yeah, I really align with that. Like you have nothing to lose by giving something. Obviously there's skill bases that you get paid for, right? But there's other parts around, like tagging someone or sharing about someone else's success, and I think that's one of the cool things that happens as we age, is that we just realize that there is abundance and enough for everyone. Like, we've got nothing to lose here. Which I think is really lovely. And just, the connection that we have through the podcasts and stuff. Do you have a menopause story, Lisa?
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
So it's a little bit hard to separate my menopause story from COVID. So I was living in Singapore in 2020 and 2021, and before that, of course. But some of the symptoms of menopause that make you go, oh, am I in perimenopause? So, a hot flash, and you're like, but it's really hot in Singapore, like it is in Malaysia.
Yeah.
It's like, was that a hot flash, or am I just hot? And do I need to turn the aircon up? Or being awake at 3 a.m. every night. So was that menopause anxiety, or is that COVID anxiety, because I'm worried I'm going to lose my job, and then what's going to happen, because COVID was really challenging, right? So it took a little while for me to go, actually, maybe I should go and see a doctor. And I was starting to see things in the media, in the Australian media, in the world media, not as much in Singapore, and I had a really great GP who was very on top of women's health issues. And she was like, I think we could start you on some HRT, so some estrogen, some progesterone. Yeah.
What's the name
that was
of your
really
GP
helpful
in Singapore? Because I probably know her.
So it was with the I'll have to, I'd have to find her name. I can't remember. Brain fog. But at the time in Singapore, it was really hard to get any doctors that would want to talk to you. So the first GP I went to I can just give you some antidepressants. I'm like, is that the first line of defense, that we're saying to women, oh, you're just depressed and here's some antidepressants. We'll just kind of keep a lid on you. I'm like, I don't think that's the option. So then I actually changed doctors to get what I needed.
Yeah. So do you know that antidepressants are used to treat hot flashes as well? Some brands
I do know that, but I think when women present at a GP, I think offering that as the first option is not the best thing to be doing. I think it needs to be part of a whole range of things that you talk about. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That was the only option given to me. And it was, no, you can't have HRT. We don't do that. It's not safe. And I'm like, it is safe. I've been reading it. I've been learning about it. So I think at the time, and probably a lot of women are doing this, you have to go and find your own information. Luckily, there's lots out there now. But also, I felt really like angry and like you want to stab people and frustrated. But we were in lockdown. Like, we
Yeah.
all were feeling very challenged by that environment. And, I couldn't get away. I couldn't, like, from my family. And, my family are nice, but sometimes you need some alone time, and trying to get that alone time. So for me, it was, I didn't know how to separate what was COVID and what was menopause.
Yeah.
Now that, we're quite a few years post that, I can see, now what was what. But yeah, really challenging. And I think I still have symptoms. I still feel anxious. Some days I just don't want to do any work. And I'm like, when does this end? Like, I'm over it. I want to be positive. I want to work hard. I want to be able to use my brain and my words. Yeah. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
I
that's
feel
my
you.
journey. Probably similar to a lot of women, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're probably 5 years in and you might have another couple of years ahead of you,
Yeah.
possibly.
Maybe. Possibly.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
It's all good. It's all good. You'll come through. What is one of the most fun, exciting projects that you're currently working on that you're allowed to talk about?
Well, when I first started my business and when I went into it full time, so I had it as a bit of a side hustle while I was living in Singapore. And then when I moved to New Zealand, I was like, I have to leave this corporate world. I was so sick of, I'd made it through COVID. It was like, enough is enough. Quit my corporate job and started the culture ministry full time. But something I'm working on at the moment that I'm really excited about, that I wanted to do from the very start, was to create a community of people who work in this space, in diversity and inclusion, or people in culture inside organizations, because I have done those roles and they're really, really lonely.
Yeah.
You're often, you're part of a team sometimes, but you're working on often some different things. So that's really challenging. So I'm launching my community for diversity and inclusion people in July. So the 22nd of July is our first webinar. And the idea is to bring people together every week, if they want to come every week, and do guest speakers on specific topics. I have some group coaching sessions. So bringing people together to problem solve together.
Amazing.
And also, what was the third thing? And so I'll run some sessions as well that I've found really useful in my work. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's exciting. What has been the time length between coming up with this brainchild and then it actual coming to fruition?
Like 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Like, I feel like I'm behind because I've had this idea for so long. But now that I'm putting it together, like, I know how to use the tech to make it happen. I know how to set up all the calendar things. Like, I couldn't have done that before.
Yeah.
Some
Isn't
of
that
the,
cool?
so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
And I think
Yeah.
that's actually one of the things that's really exciting about what you've described in your journey, which is COVID happened, you went into perimenopause, you got sick of your corporate job, you had this great idea, you wanted to make it happen, and you just went all in. This is the quintessential Gen X and late millennial
Yep.
story.
Yep.
A
Yep.
lot of that actually, many women I've spoken to, it's been off the back of menopause that has
Yeah.
happened. They're just like, I can't deal with these people anymore, and I know I can do this. And so while there's this inability to hold a conversation, there's this deep belief that there's something that you've got to give, that you've got this purpose, you've got these skills, you've got this ability to make people feel included. And so you just go, right, that's it, I'm doing it. And throw hate to the wind, I'm just going to trust and believe in myself that this will happen and hopefully pay the bills. Right?
That's exactly what happens. And I think I love the tension between I can't do the corporate bullshit anymore. I can't deal with that crap. I can't deal with the politics. I had a project that was a really fantastic project. It made a lot of sense. I'd written a really great business case for this particular project inside the organization I was working for. It took 9 months to get approved. And I'm like,
Ugh.
that's just shit. So you get to the point you go, I can't deal with the bullshit, but also I want to do something that's purpose-driven, that, that cares about people, that gives back. Hopefully I can earn money. If I don't, I'm going to work at the cafe up the road or, just to make ends meet, because I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I'd always wanted to have my own business for a long time, and I'd, you know, I'd had a few different side hustles trying things out. And I also came with the notion, and I see this in a lot of young people now, particularly in tech companies, where they've been sold this dream that if you get to work for a big company, then you'll have a job, it'll be secure. I mean, I think we've blown that up in the last few years, but like you have to own your own career and you have to own your destiny, and you can't rely on a big company to always be there for you. And
Yeah.
I think particularly for women, we've like, you know, don't give up the option to not earn money. I'm seeing
Mm.
really younger generations now going, I've always wanted to just get married and have kids and my husband support me. I'm like, that is not like, I feel horrified. And so part of, I think, women, you know, starting their own business as well is like, we just need to be in control of our destiny. Women in their 50s and 60s are the biggest group who are becoming homeless.
Yeah.
Like,
I talk to
wait,
my husband about this
I
all the
just like,
time. It's actually not my biggest fear, but I am aware of the stats
mm,
around that, you know, like, because obviously I left a corporate opportunity and an entrepreneurial opportunity and had this amazing life in Asia, and then came back to New Zealand
yeah,
and wanted to start something completely by myself.
yeah, yeah,
Hence, you know, what I do today. But there was that real fear of like, well, how am I going to build up the KiwiSaver retirement fund that
yeah,
everyone's got? Like, I don't have that here,
yeah,
you know, and how we start off the back foot as women when it comes to those sort of
yep,
financial opportunities.
yep,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that to unpack, of which I discuss with various people in my circle. Of the gendered ageism is a big conversation. I'm going to have that conversation another time. But yeah, I
yeah,
totally get what you mean. It's quite scary, but at the
yeah,
end of the day, don't you have to do the thing that you really want to do? If you
yes,
put yourself out
yeah,
there and you give it everything and you stay open to learning the tech, you know, whatever it takes, keep learning, then
yep,
yeah, die happy, really.
yeah,
Yeah. You did the
yes,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's your biggest challenge? We'll just round up today's conversation with what's your biggest
Mm.
challenge with what you're doing today? Like what? Yeah.
Um, right at the moment, I would say the economy and some of the political messages that we're seeing in society.
Mm-hmm.
So when the economy is slow, like it is at the moment, organisations will cut back on spending on things that they don't think they need all the time, like diversity and inclusion consulting. The really great organisations who get it, who know that if they do the work, then people will stay and do great work, but there's quite a lot that don't. So that's a challenge. And I think in the space that I'm working, and in many things in society at the moment, we've become very binary.
Mm.
And so I'm seeing lots of consultants who do similar work to me who are just down one end of the spectrum and kind of yelling about how we have to have flexibility, we have to work school hours, we have to, you know, kind of advocating for people, which is fantastic, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't advocate. I'm not saying we shouldn't have inclusion, but I'm worried that the more we yell about the things we have to do for people, and the less we talk about how do we create sustainable business so that
Mm-hmm.
we've got opportunities for women and for Indigenous people and for the rainbow, for all of the people who are underrepresented. Like, I think we need to come back to the middle a bit. I think organizations and businesses can't do everything and they can't be everything to everyone. And I think we need to get much better clarity around our purpose and why we exist as a business and who are we going to serve as a business, to bring that in a little bit. So the business is really clear, so then we can support the people in a better way. Um, because I don't think we can keep being at either ends of the spectrum. I think we have to come into the middle a bit and start being a bit practical and sensible. I don't know. Does that resonate? Or
Yeah, really
I don't know.
thought-provoking conversation right now, actually. So thanks. I really appreciate that, and that you've got that perspective. I don't have this perspective that you have because I don't work in that area, but obviously
Yeah.
sitting on the fringes with something specific like menopause and then going, okay, well, we've got this subgroup of people who really want support. What does that look like for everyone else as well? So you got me
Yeah.
thinking.
But see,
And I agree
would,
with you around the businesses. It's ironic, isn't it, that businesses cut back on funding when we're going through some tougher times financially, but they cannot afford to lose people. And so
No.
it feels like it should go the other way. They should go, well, we've got this investment, we have this budget, because they have budgets. So now's the time to make the most of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But
that would be my thinking.
even things like menopause, I mean, if you've got an organisation that's saying, okay, we need more women in leadership, well, what is that going to take? It's going to take supporting women through being pregnant and childbirth. It's supporting women through menopause. And so we need to, as an organisation, we need to have a strategy around that. And a strategy is not bringing in someone just to run education. That's awesome. And it's a great start. But what is the whole strategy? So being a bit more intentional, I think, about some of those things and having these topics as part of that overall strategy.
Yeah. I have worked with some companies that have like that strategy. I think I just want to give a shout out to Les Mills International, one of the bigger international brands from New Zealand that actually do have that strategy, which they've tackled every single subgroup that works for them. I don't know if my language is right, because I know with diversity and inclusion, you've got to have the right language. I don't have that.
It's okay.
I'm okay. I know what I want to say. And I think it's nice to see that there are places that do take it into consideration, that do have that strategy, that say we value the people that come to work every day, that are aligned with our core messaging to, make the world a fitter place and all that sort of stuff. And we don't want them, we want them to stick around. So where are the challenging highs and lows in their life journey that we need to acknowledge and keep their work opportunities going forward for them?
Yeah. And Les Mills, I think, is a great example. So I'm a member of Les Mills. And when I go into the gyms, it's not a bro kind of environment anymore. Like when I was...
It used to be, yeah.
Well, I'm sure it was, but now I go in and it's diverse in terms of gender. It's diverse in terms of age. So I will see really young women and men through to much older women and men. I notice that all the trainers are different ages, genders, ethnicities. And so, without even you telling me that Les Mill has some intentional strategies around what they're doing, I go into that gym and go, yeah, there is something. I can see it. And I mean, so smart, because Les Mills is serving the general public and anyone should be able to come in and feel like they belong in that gym. So, great example.
Yeah. Hey, Lisa, it was so good to talk to you this morning. And it's quite a different topic for me to have an education on. I do often have guests come on and give me a bit of an education around what's happening in different, businesses and outside my own little bubble of menopause. So look, I really appreciate it, and I'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
No, it was amazing to talk to you, and I love doing these conversations because there will be people who'll come listen because they know me, but will be looking for a menopause educator. And I think the work you do is really cool. I love that interplay you have between doing things in workplaces, but also around fitness. And obviously fitness is a big part of being able to manage menopause symptoms so you don't stab people.
Yeah, totally is. I like your take on it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Sexy Aging, and a huge thank you once again to my guest who offers their time and knowledge. Hey, if you love this episode, go and check out some other ones and subscribe to the podcast so I can continue to bring you content you will love. I'd also appreciate a review if you've got a minute. If you're watching or listening to this episode on Spotify, there is the opportunity to give specific feedback and comments on this episode. Get out there and slay and stay sexy.